Thank you so much. Also, if you are attending on video, it would be awesome if you could turn your video on just for a couple minutes. I will be talking about mental health, which I heard brought up before, and it's way easier to talk about mental health when you see like real people's human faces. So I really appreciate, thank you, Casey, for turning your video on. Also, I would be there with you, but I live in Tampa and it's one heck of a drive. So thank you for letting me join you remotely. My name is Johnny Crowder, and I am the founder and CEO of a company called Cope Notes. And before I explain what we do, I wanted to explain why we do it. I grew up in an abusive environment, and I've lived through almost any mental health diagnosis that you can name. I was in treatment for over a decade. I went to school for psychology. I started doing peer support and public advocacy through the National Alliance on Mental Illness 11 years ago, which makes me feel ancient to think that I started doing it so long ago. I've learned a ton in my experiences, not only in treatment, but also working with treatment providers and now running a mental health company. So I kind of understand all of the different corners of the continuum of care. And we're basically looking to close gaps, the gaps that I fell through when I was in and out of treatment growing up. So on a very high level, Cope Notes provides daily mental health support via text message. You could probably ascertain that from this first slide. It's pretty straightforward. The actual problem that we are solving is that there are people like me in the center who might live with multiple diagnoses like me. They might live with no diagnoses, but they've considered using mental health resources, but they have a pretty legit list of reasons why they don't want to use the ones that are available. Maybe their schedule is really wacky, so they don't know when they can book appointments. Maybe they don't have a smartphone. Maybe they don't have the money to throw at counseling or therapy. Maybe they're struggling with social stigma or what other people might think of them. And then by the time most Americans reach out to a provider, which takes on average about 10 years, which is almost unimaginable, providers, a lot of them, especially now post-COVID, say, listen, Johnny, we would love to help you, but we are understaffed and we're underfunded. So our earliest available appointment is May 11th. Does that work for you? And for many people, it's not convenient to put our mental health struggles on hold for 6 weeks. It creates kind of this backup in the system. And as a result, a lot of communities wind up reacting to crises rather than preventing them in the first place. And as a suicide survivor, I am very fortunate to understand that timing is everything. If we can get people help before the crisis, before the headline, before the tragedy, it saves providers a lot of money, and it saves people like you and me a lot of heartache and hurt and even our lives. This is maybe one of my favorite slides because everyone thinks that we are an app because it's the 21st century. And of course, it has to be an app if it's a digital resource. Cope Notes is not an app, and very proudly so. It's just text messages, plain old text messages, SMS. And some of the reasons why we chose text message as a medium are probably obvious to you. Like, heck, you don't have to download anything, which is nice. You don't have to remember passwords. There are no software updates. Importantly for me, I'm kind of privacy minded. When I use Cope Notes, I don't have to share my personal data with the Apple App Store, the Google Play Store, like you would if you were downloading an app. But the three primary reasons why we chose SMS are at the bottom here. So the first one is engagement. It is 25 to 60 times more likely that you will open a text message than an app notification. So it is no contest. Text messaging is the way to communicate in the modern era. And you might think, well, that's nice for my daughter, or that's nice for youth, but what about me? I'm an adult. Actually, 97% of American adults prefer texting to any other medium. So like, good point, but not really, because we're not all that different. Texting is actually not only effective, but also preferred. But here's the point that really tipped the scale for me to choose SMS. 11% of the US population, 36 million Americans, use non-smart cell phones, which means you could create the greatest mental health app in the world, but it's leaving tens of millions of Americans not only not just Americans, but 2.5 billion people around the world without access to your resource. And I wouldn't be able to sleep at night if I did that. So we knew that we had to make it accessible just from a health equity standpoint. Now, I'm trying to keep the presentation short to make time for questions. So I'm kind of going quickly. Cope Notes as a resource, all of the text messages that we send are written by peers with lived experience. Then they are reviewed, edited, and approved by a clinical oversight panel. So these are mental health professionals that ensure that the content is based on proven psychological principles, it is trauma informed, and then not only are the texts written by peers, reviewed by clinicians, but then they are delivered at random times, which is so cool to me. So no two people ever get the same text at the same time. You never know when we will text you or what the text will say. And these texts are designed to interrupt negative thought patterns in real time. Sitting in traffic, being chewed out by your boss, whatever it is, these text messages come in at random times, and it's kind of like guerrilla warfare for those negative thought patterns. And then you can journal back and speak freely and say whatever you want, whenever you want in that text thread. And by journaling, you are boosting your emotional IQ, you are boosting your emotional independence, and building your resilience against crisis. And the reason why people feel safe journaling in their Cope Notes text thread is because it is anonymous and confidential, which means right now, David and Michelle and John could all sign up for Cope Notes, and I would have no way of knowing that they did. We don't even collect your name. All we have on file is a phone number. Privacy is pretty important to us. And then this is hands down the coolest slide in the entire deck, the neuroscience slide. I literally gave a TED talk about the neuroscience behind Cope Notes. That's how much of a nerd I am about this stuff. Long story short, your brain forms thought patterns by thinking a thought multiple times and synapses in your brain growing closer together to facilitate your brain thinking that thought. It happens all the time. Cope Notes did not invent that pattern. All we're doing is guiding it to make sure that you don't build thought patterns around negative thoughts, but rather positive thoughts. So what we're doing is sending these text messages that interrupt negative thought patterns in real time. And over time, your brain learns through neuroplasticity and cognitive restructuring to challenge negative thoughts and catalyze positive thoughts in their place. So your brain actually forms new neural pathways associated with coping skills and resilience. And we kind of jokingly say it's like brain surgery without the scalpel, because your brain is physically changing itself over time, but it doesn't require medication or surgery or anything like that. And up here it says the first set it and forget it mental health resource, which means that you don't have to wake up in the morning and decide to use Cope Notes. You will probably forget, and we will make sure that you don't, because we will text you every single day, once a day, to surprise your brain. We have 3 different subscription tiers. There are personal subscriptions for people like you and me. There are gift and family subscriptions if we want to help out a friend or family member. And then there are enterprise level subscriptions, which is where a majority of our revenue comes from. And that is your governments, your school districts, your businesses, your insurance companies, hospitals, nonprofits, where we're serving these really large groups. But what's really cool about Cope Notes is that it is mega affordable. So there are resources out there that charge $250, $350, $450 a month for mental health support on a digital basis. And we provide that for like less than $10 a month, which I think is awesome. You can actually get a full year of daily support through Cope Notes for less than the price of one therapy session, which was our goal when we set out. And then I'm going to make short work of this slide because I'm over time. Don't tell anybody. We have reviews on our website, which I'll skip. But if you go to copenotes.com, there's a reviews tab. Please click them and grab a box of tissues. There are some really incredible stories about people's lives that have been changed through Cope Notes. We have lots of community partners at the bottom. Some of them you might recognize, like Mental Health America. There's also a state in the Northeast called New York that you might have heard of that we contract with, which is super cool. And over the last 4-ish years, we've exchanged over 1 million text messages with users in 97 countries, all in English somehow, which is really exciting. But I think out of everything I've said, the only thing that actually matters is whether or not it works. And that's kind of why that 86% is so dang big right there in the center. We've surveyed thousands of users, and 86% of them report improved mental health within 30 days. And if you're skeptical of that because we collected the data, that's fine, because we've done 2 studies with USF Health, one qualitative, one quantitative, that have actually demonstrated the same results. And both of those will be published this year. I need to stop talking now, but if you can't tell, I care a ton about this stuff. So it's hard to turn the faucet off, but I want to leave time for questions. So thank you a ton for listening, and I would love to chat with all of you.
Nicely done, nicely done. We end the screen share?
Yep.
Thank you. So do we have questions, Abraham? No, I'm kidding. So if we have questions on Zoom, go ahead and put your hand up. Lloyd, do you have a question? See the little hand on Fireflies. All right, Abraham?
Hey everyone, for those who came in a little bit later, again, I'm Abraham with Speaks to Inspire, the mental health solution for young adults suffering in silence. And I am super excited to see how excited you are, Johnny, about this. I love connecting with other advocates, those who are really making a dent in the world and an impact when it comes to our mental health. My question is, what drives you? You explained a little bit about your experience in the beginning of your presentation on how you got started. What drives you these days, and why do you do what you do?
Thanks for giving a crap about mental health and applying yourself to it. It makes me happy to meet people who care. I think we're kind of ahead of the curve. Like in 15 years, everyone's going to be like, oh yeah, mental health is so important. So thank you for spending your time that way. And honestly, it's just, I don't want to get too like dark and gloomy, but I had one of the worst childhoods I've ever heard of. Like the reason why people book me as a speaker is kind of to tell people what I've been through. And I will never forget it. I have severe memory loss from medication, and I wish I could forget parts of my childhood that will probably live in my brain forever. And every time that I get, building a business is crushing and brutal. Like we're bootstrapped. We have not raised any capital from VCs or anything, although it has been tempting. And bootstrapping a company is hands down one of the most mentally taxing things I've ever done. And what keeps me waking up the next day and trying again is honestly remembering how I felt when I had no support, and remembering how frustrating it was trying to find affordable support or timely support or consistent support, something that felt peer driven and peer led rather than like cold and clinical and jargony. And it's that coupled with, we get reviews and testimonials all the time, and I post them in our company Slack so all of our employees can see, like, this is why we send that extra email. This is why we make that extra phone call to check in on a vendor or something, because at the end of the day, the people who benefit are people just like you and me. But the coolest part is we don't know who they are. So we get these like anonymous testimonials from people, and we let our imagination run wild thinking like, that could be your daughter, right? That could be my waiter. We don't know. And that we all sleep very well at night knowing that while we might not make as much money as we could doing other work, and while we might not get as many vacations or weekends or whatever if we were to take another job, we sleep like babies at night knowing that we get to contribute to people who felt just like we do.
Very good. So we have a question here, and then we'll go over here. You had a question?
Yep. I was just going to say, I saw that you had NAMI Tampa Bay, and I have a virtual relationship with NAMI Pasco. She's gotten me through some things with there. So I'm going to share your stuff with NAMI Pasco as well. And being a veteran, PTSD, I don't know how you can connect there, but that would be a place for you to maybe tap out into some disabled veteran scenarios to make your heart heard in those facilities as well. I would start with American Legion or those kinds of things in the community to just see if you can speak at their events from time to time.
I'm with you. Please mention it to NAMI Pasco. We work with some NAMI affiliates. I don't think we work with NAMI Pasco yet, so that would be awesome. And then on the veteran front, we've been trying to find a way into like serving the veteran community for a long time, but in many ways it's kind of like a fortress. So if you have like, yeah, any specific ideas like that about how we can get connected to serve the veteran community, I am all ears.
It has to be outside the VA system. It has to be to the people, where the people go outside of the VA. Forget the VA system.
Yeah, we've been learning that the hard way. So it's kind of like comforting to hear you say like, just don't try anymore there, seek elsewhere.
All right, another question here.
Hi, Steve Mayfield. A great presentation. Thank you so much for that. You made it very clear and succinct. I got two questions. One is really short. How much is the subscription is the first question.
I think it's $8.99 a month or something like that. It's right around $10 a month based on your preferences.
Good. All right, thank you. And then following on, a lead on with that is mental health is a huge initiative in every community, and the emergency room for community hospitals is a great portal. You might partner with the emergency rooms, and they might be even willing to support or subsidize the fee that you pay, so that these frequent flyers, as which they're known, mental health people struggling, come to emergency rooms and clog it up. They need support. And the follow-on question, to get involved with the military side of it, you want to connect the Defense Health Agency, DHA. They have a behavioral health initiative in which they're trying to provide this support all over. If you email me later, or we find out how to get in touch with you, I can give you some more information. Over.
Yes. What is your email?
Dr. Stephen Mayfield at gmail.com.
Is it Dr.
STEPHEN Mayfield at gmail.com.
We are totally hitting you up. Thank you so much.
All right. Hey, Johnny. Dr. Sam here. Now, you guys do have a trial, don't you? Could people sign up for a trial and give it a shot?
Yes. If you just go to copenotes.com, there should be like a banner or a pop-up or something that's like, want to try it for free? And you can just type in your phone number and press text me. There are no strings attached. So you're not locked in using it for life, or we don't steal your data or anything. It's just a way for people to like get a sense of what we do and how we do it.
Hey, Johnny, it's Mike Ellicott. You are helping veterans. Just know that. There's a couple people I want to introduce you to after this as well. I'll reach out.
Please. And thank you a ton for saying that. It's weird because we never know who we serve because it's anonymous. So we only know from like random testimonials if people say like, oh, I'm a teacher, I'm in foster care, whatever, where we're like, whoa, that's so cool, you know?
I took the long way on that one, sorry.
Hey, Johnny. Not a doctor here, but my older sister did struggle with a lot of just mental health issues. I mean, a lot of my siblings had actually just had some traumatic stuff happen whenever he grew up, and it's been kind of hard to watch her over the last it's been about 10 years now. Just dealing with a lot of, she hasn't recovered from stuff that happened mentally, and it's affected her a lot, her husband and her kids. She's not going to see this later, so I'm okay with saying this. But unless she is, I don't know. But it's that's been kind of hard, and I know that if she would have just had, because she's been to all kinds of therapists, you know, and even a lot of medical centers, and I think if she would have had something like this back then, I think it would have helped. Just because it's kind of, it is a daily battle. I feel like it is for her. And getting something like that, if it's daily or weekly, I mean, I think daily, if they are really needing the encouragement and the support, would have been really great. So my question is, so I know you all have a lot of enterprise clients. How do you all market this a lot to the public, just to regular consumers and people, or do you normally work through organizations to get this in front of people?
So first of all, much love to you and your family. I can relate to a lot of that. And second, our go-to-market has been primarily through community partnerships. You got to think, if we're bootstrapped, we cannot throw a bunch of money at Facebook ads and hope that the right people see it. We have to like literally go to work with organizations in our community to distribute subscriptions. So eventually, like, you know, if we ever did take money or we close like a bajillion-dollar deal, which will hopefully be any moment now, then we can put a lot of money into advertising to the general public. But primarily, we work with like your county government, your city government, your local nonprofits or providers. And that's really how we have a lot of visibility. So you might not see us on a billboard, but if you were to go to a local provider, there's a chance that they might say, oh, here's a Cope Notes subscription. We work with them.
And what was y'all's website again?
It's just copenotes.com.
Okay, and who, you know, some of us, whether we're in the small business community here, who is your ideal customer that if we might see in our daily connections would be good for us to try to connect you with?
That's a great question, and thank you for asking it. Primarily, we serve, if you can think of it this way. If you know anyone who works at a school or school district, we do student and staff wellness. If you know anyone who works at like a small business, we do employee wellness. And then if you know anyone who works in like either the nonprofit or government space, we do community wellness. So those are really like the three buckets that we're trying to focus on this year.
Okay. Any specific reps or positions from those companies? Like, hey, if you know one specifically in this department or in leadership, is it like a specific role that we could really, if we know in our network?
Yes. Health and Human Services, if you know anybody in that side of government, that's a great fit. As far as nonprofits, basically any organizations that focus on serving community wellness. And then for-profit, maybe like a benefits manager or like someone in HR.
Very good. You got a question?
I do. Thank you so much for your work. I am a former social worker and worked with lots of hurting people in all of the arenas that you've discussed. So most recently I worked in hospice and changed careers actually because people couldn't grieve appropriately because they were worried about money. And we know that grief is becoming more and more complicated, especially through COVID. So just a thanks for your work. And I'm also the parent of a child that, now a young adult, that deals with ongoing mental health issues, I think as a result of a kidney transplant when she was younger. So how young of a client do you serve?
Thank you for doing important work. I appreciate you so much. What a cool group, by the way, today is. We typically serve 6th grade reading level and above. So you might have like a smart elementary schooler who just like gets it, but primarily we do middle school and up.
Love it. I love that you serve adolescents, children. There's a huge gap. We had just moved when things spiraled for her, and getting help was a nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, she's thriving, but I anticipate that she'll have a subscription very soon. So my next question is, how do you recruit the peers that write the posts?
So fortunately, I have been volunteering in the mental health space for like over a decade. So I've met a lot of really talented, awesome people who have a lot to say. But I think a misconception is that we have this like team of peers that's like always sending out thousands of text messages a day, which is not the case. Actually, peers work on the text library. So the library is like a fixed, finite, think of it like a library. There are only so many books in a library. So the peers are contributing to that library, but they're not actually sitting around sending all of the text messages themselves. We use an algorithm to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Excellent. So our last question for you is always, how can our community help you?
I think everyone kind of circled around it the whole time, which is I've shared this before. A mentor told me one day, I'll never forget it. He said, if anyone offers you the choice between $1 million and an email introduction, take the email introduction because you never know where that will lead. Now, if you also have $1 million, I will gladly take you up on that. But assuming that you don't, what are there, 10, 15 people listening right now? If by the end of this week, I had 15 email introductions to people in the community who could leverage Cope Notes to serve, I mean, think about the ripple effect. We actually have one of the largest accounts we've ever closed is with Orange County, Florida. And they are serving thousands of people through their school district, through their local providers. And that's because someone made an email introduction that literally thousands of people are now healthier. So please don't underestimate the value of your network, and like rack your brain and think, if I wanted to impact the most people, who would I introduce Cope Notes to? Because I'm telling you, when you read some of these testimonials, you'll be like, that came because someone sent an email introduction, and you could be that catalyst. So please do. And my email also, if you don't have it, I don't know if there's an email that goes out afterwards to share information, but it's just Johnny, JOHNNY @copenotes.com.
Very good. Well, nicely done. Thanks for doing the good work. And come visit Pensacola so we don't have to do email introductions. We'll introduce you live.
I am down. That sounds awesome.
All right. Nice job.
Thank you.
All right, so we have two very important tasks left for this morning. First, if Dr. Morgan, if you can, Johnny, turn your camera back on. We're going to take a picture. And Dr. Morgan, there we go. Hold on. This is my keyboard. Keyboard's laid out different. This one? Nope. Sorry. Bear with me. I didn't realize keyboards are set up differently. There we go. All right, so that's how we do it. All right, so we're going to take a picture. Everybody hold up your cup if you have one. And 3, 2, 1, smile. Whoops, sorry. 3, 2, 1, smile. All right. Never done this live before. Thank you for participating. Of course, I got to figure out how to save that picture and get it to myself later. All right, and then the next very important task, Johnny, I'm assuming that you could replace your shoes with mugs at this point, but if you do come to Pensacola, feel free to come grab one. Eric, thank you for presenting. You get a mug for that. And then we get to give two away to Dr. Morgan. Have you done this before? Have you been to 1 Million Cups? You have? Do you have a mug? Do you have a mug?
A 1 Million Cups mug?
Yes.
I do not.
Okay. Well, one for our online participant is going to go to Dr. Morgan. I can get it up to the library, and you can just swing over and pick it up when you want to.
Thank you.
And then in the audience, do we have a first timer here today? A first timer? You two are married, right? All right, I'm gonna come back next time and we'll try to get you one. Here's one for you. Very good. All right, and with that, we're right on time today, so I think we're just gonna say thank you so much for doing this. If you have an idea that you want to present, sign up at 1millioncups.com, Pensacola. If you don't have an idea, come talk to CoLab and let's get an idea going and start some new businesses. All right, thanks everybody.